This episode is brought to you by Anytime Fitness. We may talk a whole lot about sports, but when it comes to keeping fit ourselves, there's definitely room for improvement. I hit this point early July. I was just like, I am not in good enough shape. I started trying to walk at least 15,000 steps a day or hiking or just anything to keep my legs moving. Now it's the end of 2023. I feel great. I had a physical 3 weeks ago, and the guy was like, you're doing great. You're doing better than you were 3 years ago. I felt great. Whatever your goals are, progress is possible thanks to Anytime Fitness. Get a personalized plan and support from an expert coach anytime, anywhere. Visit anytimefitness.com to try Anytime Fitness for free. Start to train for your life. Terms, conditions, and restrictions apply. See website for details. This episode is brought to you by Atlassian. Atlassian software like Jira, Confluence, and Trello help power global collaboration for all teams so they can accomplish everything that's impossible alone. Because individually we're great, but together we're so much better. Learn how to unleash the potential of your team at Atlassian.com. Atlassian.com. Atlassian. Tap the banner or visit this episode's page to learn more.
Welcome to Beyond the Arc. My name is Kevin O'Connor, and I am here in beautiful Las Vegas at NBA Summer League. This is my Coachella. I am fired up to be here. We have a big show today with J. Kyle Mann, Tate Frazier, Wosny Lambre talking about NBA Summer League, the offseason, the draft, looking ahead to next season. Let's get to it. We saw Portland have a 100-99 thrilling win. Jabari Smith hitting a game-winning buzzer beater three-pointer with 0.6 on the clock. Sprints down the floor afterwards. He celebrates in front of our boss, Bill Simmons. The game was awesome. The Rocket side of things, they win that game. Jabari Smith had 33 points. We see Amen Thompson. Let's talk about him first. 16 points of 6 of 13, 5 assists, 4 rebounds. Amen Thompson, number 4 pick in the draft. What were your first impressions of seeing him with this young Rockets core?
He had sort of like a Sean Marion-y kind of a like length of the stat sheet kind of a thing. You know, I was really impressed. A lot of things translated. You and I had this conversation over the course of the year about, like, okay, what's the pitch for Amen Thompson? The pitch is probably going to be able to get into the lane at will. Very wiggly, can change directions. He's flexible, full body flexibility. And the thing about that separates him from other guys with his athleticism is once he gets into the lane, he has a really good access to angles, passing angles.
The left-handed finish that he had on the right side of the basket is a perfect example.
He's had that one in his bag for a while, but he'll put you in this weird stretched out position. Yeah, and then he surprises you with that lefty finish. Mm-hmm. It's kind of unorthodox because he can righty finish there. I was really impressed, Kev, with he had a couple interior kind of dump offs, sprays back out to the opposite, to the weak side. I think he forecasted the things that he is going to provide for them. In addition to being competitive on the defensive end, this scenario really showcased, I think, a lot of the things that are the pitch for him, and they translate it, which is encouraging. I think.
You mentioned his competitive defense. On one hand, I was sad every time we saw Scoot and Amen matched up, and then they switched the screen. On the other hand, we got to see Amen Thompson fighting like hell on those switches against bigger players. Mm-hmm. And I thought with his size, 6'7", with length, and obviously his otherworldly athleticism, the toughness more than anything else was impressive to me on some of those switches against bigger players that were screening against him. That's what he's going to have to do with Houston. You got a team that is kind of built to be super switchable. Jabari Smith, of course. They have Cam Whitmore. They have so many kind of these big wing type of players that have different playing styles, but all of them on defense I would expect to be heavily switchable. Amen Thompson, I thought he was excellent on defense. He did everything that he had to do for that team.
Yeah, he's disruptive. I mean, like, again, the body type. He's crisscrossing sort of a lot of different. We talk a lot about like how Matisse Thybulle can contest out to the 3-point line, close gaps quickly with his closeouts, fly in, disrupt lobs, things like that. Slink around screens. Being difficult to screen is a really important thing because it's just a way that teams can create separation. And if you want to be switchable, I think that body type is going to be really helpful for that type, that style of thing. He projects as a connector and exactly what we talked about, like a connector on offense and a guy who can switch on defense. We did get to see a couple Scoot in head-to-heads. I think Scoot made like an 18-footer step back on him, and you could kind of see Scoot being like, told you. There was like a fun energy between them.
A little bit of reaction. You can tell he's feeling good about himself in that moment.
Yeah, that was a fun. I wish we'd, like you said, Scoot obviously left the game.
As did Mann.
Yeah.
Scoot with the shoulder injury. As of Saturday recording, we don't know with the MRI if he's, what the seriousness of it is. Odds are he's going to be out. That's what I would expect. Mann Thompson as well had the ankle issue that he left the game with. So we didn't get to see those guys finish, unfortunately. But both of them kind of did all the things that we anticipated from them. I don't think we necessarily saw anything new from Mann. It was just nice to see him perform. And same thing with Scoot Henderson. He had 15 points on 5 of 13, 6 assists, 2 turnovers. He hit some pull-up jumpers to start. I believe he had his first 3, then he missed a handful after that. It was just a solid Scoot and Henderson game. We've saw this for 2 years with the Ignite, and more than anything else, he just seemed like maybe the most composed pick-and-roll playmaker that I've seen in the Summer League in a long time, which is no surprise considering his actual professional experience for 2 years now.
Yeah. Tate was talking about how he looked like a seasoned veteran. I was like, he looks like that way because he is that way. He's been playing against NBA schemes for 2 years now. We talked about he was a little bit more tertiary, secondary off the ball with like Beauchamp and Hardy and Dyson Daniels, and then he moves on ball in year 2 and it has more of the primary role, but he's been seeing these looks. He's ready. And I honestly, I think in terms of like the age range and the types of defenses he's seeing and just sort of the problem solving, he's familiar with it. So I think some of the acclimation that has to go on. We saw like Brandon Miller come out of the gate like the first night or the first games he was playing. It was a little wobbly. It was a little weird. It was a little inefficient. But Scoot just shot out of a cannon. He was ready to go. Like he didn't have to acclimate. He was like, "Hey guys, I've been here. Like there is no adjusting. I'm ready to go out of the box."
My favorite play that he made was a drive down the basket. I believe it was a right-handed loop pass from underneath the rim to Chris Murray in the corner for a 3. Murray was solid. It wasn't like a spectacular game. 10 points, hit that corner 3. Watching the game though, the people I was sitting with, we were talking. There's just no way Scoot and Dame are going to be able to play together. They could play together. Like they could coexist, right? Like 2 smaller guards, 2 6'2" guys, but Scoot's at his best with the ball in his hands. Dame is at his best with the ball in his hands. And if the Blazers were to keep Damian Lillard into training camp, try to make this ugly, try to get the best offer that they can, I think with those 2 guys, like, yes, you get a mentor in Dame. He's going to do what a veteran should do. But on the court, I just don't even think it's for the best for Scoot's development. I think he'd be better off getting that freedom to kind of just run the show with all the other young, talented players that they have. Like, what are your feelings on kind of Scoot? Did that cross your mind at all watching those games?
I think you can look at it in just the Scoot-Dame dynamic, but you have to zoom out and take everything else into consideration. At that point, you're going to have 4 guys on the floor like that you want to play a lot. You're going to start talking about not starting Sharpe, not starting Anthony Simons, that type of thing. The 3-headed monster of the Simons, Sharpe, and Scoot thing is going to be very fun. Like I like long term, I think it's going to like maybe pose some roster questions we can talk about. But the Scoot. The Scoot.
What are those roster questions?
I think that it implies. I made this argument in a video I did about Scoot. I finally got out my eval dive on Scoot.
Martin
put it out.
Scorsese.
The Irishman. Yeah. It was I was joking. I was like, it was starting to become the Guns N' Roses album, The Chinese Democracy. I was like, this thing's finally going to come out and stink. I don't want to like people talking about it for too long.
Verno used to have a line with our podcast. He says, "It's not Born to Run."
Exactly. But my thing with him is that, like, I do think the 3 of those guys, while fun, sometimes you'll have these young cores that in the short term will be like, man, this is a blast. But long term, you do have to kind of level up and start asking different questions. I always compare it to like the company culture thing. You always have the startup, the fun times where it's like, people are having beers at their desk and, going and having luau's on Friday. But at some point, you got to be serious about like becoming a real entity that is trying to achieve. And, so it's like, for the Trailblazers, I think eventually, if you wanted to, and this is me just, spitballing with you here back and forth. I mean, to me, it seems like they would have to have big time switchability, big time like mistake coverers, mistake erasers on the back end. Maybe that could be Jeremy Grant. I think you'd have to have a pretty great rim protector behind those three guys if you wanted to keep them together. What do you think about that?
You're talking just simply Scoot, Simon, Sharpe.
Yes,
those three together.
Super fun, but defensively, I think it's going to be an issue to have three guys that size on the court.
I think at some point, obviously you trade Dame. At some point that happens. At some point, I also think you trade Simons, and so that would distill it down to Scoot and Sharpe. And Sharpe's got some size to him, has a bit of fight on defense. We'll see how he develops over time there. Scoot Henderson, 6'2", he gets attacked. You detailed it, very well on your video about how sometimes he kind of just, doesn't close out hard. He goes through phases where he's just, the effort intensity isn't there. But then you see him kind of locking in a stance against Amen Thompson, ready to go. When he locks in, he can be really tough. And as part of a collective defensive unit with a ton of versatility and a great rim protector you're talking about, I think Scoot could fare very well on defense as part of that type of atmosphere and situation that they can be part of in the future. But for Portland, I also think your point about them having a great rim protector also applies to offense too. Like having someone who can be that downhill vertical threat would be perfect with Scoot Henderson in the years to come. Like kind of like how Russell Westbrook, granted Steven Adams isn't the most vertical guy, but he's an awesome screener, a great finisher at the basket. Scoot's downhill attacking would pair well with that type of player construct. So with them, maybe Yusuf Nurkic can kind of be like a C- version of that or a D+ version of that for his first year in his career. And then in the years to come, you find an upgrade over him, which isn't hard to do. So I think for Portland, I think they're in a position now where you're kind of just in the early stages. It's a question for down the line that you're talking about with the Sharpe, Simon, Scoot trio. And where they are now, I like their young players. They're kind of developing. They have Jeremy Grant still under contract. They just re-signed him.
Yes, they do.
Chris Murray, 5-year deal. Chris Murray, solid two-way player as well. They're building out kind of the foundation at this point. Now it's just about maximizing that return for Damian Lillard, whether it's this summer, whether it's to Miami, whether it's to a surprise team, or whether it's dragging this into the season and trying to get a better offer in January or February, or even waiting until next summer. So we'll see how that kind of plays out for them. On the Houston side of things, I think what they're building as well is kind of, I mentioned earlier, all their rangy wings. That's what you're sort of envisioning for Scoot with Portland, with all the guys that they had. We saw Tari Eason have 20 points, 10 rebounds. Jabari Smith, 33 points after an iffy first half, was amazing in the second half.
Hit the game winner, yeah. Jabari
Smith's stock going up. Still early to buy after, for a lot of people thought he had an underwhelming rookie year. I thought the quote he had after the game was, it's a great mindset to have. Why would I not be playing Summer League? I'm 20 years old. It's my second year. We stunk last season. He should be playing, and he looked great. I thought his progress was pretty apparent.
I love that you mentioned the thing about his quote after the game, because that speaks to a broader thing that I think a lot about with Summer League. Every year that we do this and come in and out of this, is that it's just such an opportunity. Last night on Ringer NBA show, I talked about how this is the on-ball leap lab. This is where guys go to develop on-ball skills, and I think it's just such a mistake to pass up on it when young guys do. And it was just refreshing. I heard somebody make the comment that this could be like a sort of a foreshadow of the culture shifting around the Summer League, which I hope that it is. I hope we can get away from this my player checkpoint, career checkpoint thing of in year 2 you got to be on the sideline in a bucket hat and your best fit cheering on your team, because that shows that you have hit the mark and you're going to get that max extension at some point or whatever it is. It's no, man, this is an opportunity to grow. And you're right about Jabari. Jabari, that was the huge ding on him. It's just, we were just this guy's way too upright. He's not ready to play on ball, and that guys can get under him. He's not any, he struggled last year. They struggled to produce open shots, point blank, full stop. And I thought it was great. I thought he looked great last night, and he was really resilient. He competes on defense. He's a guy, I think it kind of poses some questions about, if you looked at how they performed, it poses some questions, and with the guys that they signed, about who do you keep around? Who do you maybe parlay for something else? Is Jalen Green in that conversation? What do you think it does for him, in terms of their schematic, in terms of what they're doing? You don't think so?
No, why not? Why would it? I'm curious about your thoughts there. Why do you ask?
if Jabari's going to develop on ball, it makes you look at the pieces they have, and I'm just like, is there redundancy there? We talked about before.
I think Jalen Green is at his best in a hybrid role, though, where he's on ball and off ball. Jalen Green, his best skill probably at this moment is kind of off ball shooting, movement, cutting. He's an amazing lob threat. With Jalen Green, it's the kind of the on ball feel that's had to develop with him. So I think with Rafael Stone, that front office hiring Ime Udoka, it's going to be interesting to see how what Udoka did in Boston could translate to Houston, where they had so many different sources of offense. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's Al Horford, DHO. Sometimes it's Tatum. Sometimes it's Brown. Like whoever it might have been in the guard, the backcourt, Marcus Smart. They ran so many different offense in the half court to generate points. With Houston, like, it was just a mess. And now I wonder if we'll see that type of thing where sometimes it's Şengün, sometimes it is Jabari Smith. It's going to be Amen Thompson a lot. Sometimes it'll be Amen Thompson as a screener, kind of playmaking out of the short roll maybe. So I think with Houston, that's where I look forward to seeing Jalen Green develop in this type of offensive ecosystem where it's coming from him sometimes, and then a lot of the other times he's playing off of somebody else. So, like, personally, I'm higher on Jalen Green in this kind of Rockets, situation now with Amen Thompson there and with Jabari Smith's progress. But, like, push back against me now. Like, you seem to think that maybe Jalen Green could kind of fade a little bit in this situation.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I think it's more of a question of sometimes you get in these discussions when you're talking about moving pieces, and they'll be like, okay, it's this instead of this. It's like, no, it's just like sometimes there's a choice that might sting a little bit if you move it, but it's gonna move you forward ultimately. I don't want to use the OKC example because they actually did the opposite of what they should have did when they had a young trio where it was like, okay, we need to do this, maybe more from money concerns. Like, they moved Harden when they should have kept Harden, that kind of a thing. But when you have a young trio, sometimes they've just accumulated so many assets. And you and I talked about before the draft, I was wondering about, like, how the stack of, like, rangy athletic guys that you were saying is to their credit, like, it's a superlative that they have all those guys. I was like, where are the minutes going to be for Cam Whitmore? Well, they got off of Kenyon Martin Jr., things like that. They're just figuring it out. Both of these teams next year are going to be really fun, I think, at times. Like, when I think about Şengün sort of being a traffic cop or just like an air traffic controller with a lot of these athletes, he's the fun catalyst piece to this for me when I think about, like, I would have loved to have seen him in this setting. Şengün, I think his passing could just kind of be more fleshed out. There are more options for him. I just think it could be more sane this year because they added passers, they added athleticism. Both of these teams are going to be bad next year still, most likely, but in a competitive West. But they still have just a ton of questions to answer.
So Jabari Smith hits the buzzer beater, and the crowd goes crazy.
How did that pass get to him?
I don't know.
That was like an optical illusion.
It was unbelievable. From my angle, I was like kind of behind the inbounder, and I thought from my angle, like, oh, no way, I said out loud. And then he catches it, turns, hits it. It was unbelievable. That was like I love Summer League moment. This is Summer League at its best. And then you're all standing, you're feeling good. You're like, Wemby's coming out, he's warming up, he's missing layups, missing shots on the warm-ups, and you're kind of like, kind of like that workout video with the Spurs. And then the game starts, and what we witnessed was a absolutely boring Summer League game. 76-68 Spurs victory with Victor Wembanyama going out there and scoring 9 points on 1 of 7 from 2-point range, 1 of 6 from 3-point range, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 5 blocks, very good defensively. He was a +4 in the game. But overall, Kyle, after that Jabari Smith buzzer beater, to get that Spurs Hornets game, what a bummer. It really was, right?
It was definitely a fart sound kind of an outcome compared to what we were excited about. I mean, like, the energy in the gym was really crazy. Like,
I thought it'd carry. I thought it would continue throughout the game.
Also, there was a nice needle drop too. I don't know if anybody else kind of felt that. It was like when he came out, the hip hop hooray song came on, and it was like perfectly timed. Not that was like the hippest song for the moment, but it was like it just had a cinematic thing when he came out. Everybody in the gym was like, all right, like, this is exciting. And I was watching him in the first half of that game, and I was thinking, I told Justin Verrier, our editor, that I was sitting next to, I was like, he looks tired. He looked winded to me at different times. And I got thinking, I was like, if you think about like the past, it's just been a media circus for him. Like, I feel like life needs to settle down for Vic a little bit, because you think about, he ended their season, you know, I forget, it was probably like a month ago.
A couple weeks ago, really.
It's like, the train leaves the station fast in terms of conditioning. If you
played almost 50 games, highly competitive.
Yeah.
Then he comes here, flying across the world, doing all these interviews as the number one pick. He did look fatigued, for sure.
Yeah. You can get, conditioning can become a problem quickly in the NBA. If you think about just the pace of how quickly things turn over, he definitely looked a little bit winded. If he wasn't making shots, you know, when it kind of hammers home how special what we saw in October was, the fact that he was making shots. If it's hinging on that with him, like the offense stuff can be a little bit ugly, but I thought his passing looked good at different times. I thought he was
the downhill drive, the little interior wraparound feed.
Yeah, I mean, he hit like a little 1-2 cross and got to the rim and did like a shovel pass to, I forget if it was Barlow or Champagny, but it was an awesome drop off. But the shooting, he kept settling, which made me think too that he was probably a little winded. We just didn't see him attacking his spots.
Not a lot of full court sprints and transition either. He did seem fatigued. I mean, I think with Wemby ultimately, it was disappointing. He showed some of the warts on offense, where as a rookie, he's going to have to get adjusted to defenses digging in with help, stripping at the ball when he's handling at his size. Like it is physically a difficult thing to do, to be that size and to have the good handles that he does. They work sometimes, but for him, that'll probably have to be an adjustment in the half court, dealing with those really smart, athletic, quick defenders coming over and help. I mean, I forget how many times we saw that. 2, 3, 4 times in the game where defenders swiped at him and forced him to pick up the ball and make an awkward pass or just turn it over.
Yeah, I think they're going to have a little more, once they get into the season, I think the scheme is going to be a little bit more structured. But he's not going to be eating a full diet of dessert, of just like cooking, dancing with the ball and then like that kind of stuff. Like Mets 92 was, use the word lab again, that's what it was. Like that was an open construct for him. That's why he went there, right? I mean, that's why he went there, was to work on those things and to work on his on-ball stuff. And I just think it'll be a little more structured. I don't think that we're going to be seeing that as much from him. Like you said, like him dancing with the ball, he's going to be vulnerable. He's got low with his dribble a lot. He did a lot of really impressive stuff on that front.
And it's a quick dribble too.
Yeah. Yeah. The defensive stuff I think is going to translate. I guess it's more of an over.
Right away.
I wanted to ask you, Waz posed this question. He was saying that he had some people in his life that were saying that they thought that he would be scoring an easy 15 points like as a rookie. What's your over under on that for Wemby, you think, points wise?
How about 17.5?
Okay. So you do feel like he'll get 15 pretty easy.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. It also depends on if the Spurs make any other moves. They still have $15 million in cap space. Could there be a trade that they make to take money into space with a veteran player or another young impressive player? Could they be a hero team or a maxi team, kind of in that Damian Lillard situation? So it's hard to know at this point, but at this current moment, I'd set it at 17.5.
Yeah.
With their offense, Devin Vassell is going to get a lot of touches. He'll probably go up to closer to 25 points per game. Keldon Johnson, Trey Jones, I mean, they have a lot of guys on that team. And I think for Victor Wembanyama, that'll also have to do with just simply 3-point percentage. Yeah. Is he sub 30% still as an NBA rookie like he was this past season, or does that number improve further like it has every year? His free throw percentage has improved every year overseas. He's at over 80% now. He was over 40% on mid-range twos, a lot of tough pull-ups. So does that 3-point percentage go up? How many does he take? Do they use him in pick and pops, or are they just like, we want to simplify the game for you, use you as a screen and roller and post up player and develop him in other ways? I don't know. I look forward to seeing the way Popovich uses him. I'm not sure what to expect. How do you think they should use him?
I was going to say on the shooting too, before I talk about how they're going to use him. I definitely think he's going to be low 30s. He might. I just have a feeling,
So that's still up though. Low 30s is higher than sub 30. I'm pretty good at math.
I'm saying it's. I guess that's not the best. It does make you feel a little sickly. I guess it kind of comes down to the types of threes. Because not every three is the same. Not every player can do what a movement shooter does. There's big difference. And what he's going to be allowed to do if he's shooting like a lot of dribble pull-up threes, it's going to be low 30s if it's 30 at all. If he's just shooting pops.
So how should they use him?
I think that I definitely think that at the end of the day, if you were going to run off it, if you were approaching it like this and you were saying like, okay, we want to build an offense around him, not necessarily like him being the thing that like moves through, I still think having him be stationary somewhere in the mid-range is probably the way to go, because he's quick and long enough to take a couple strides and get to the basket. He can see over the top of defenses. We've seen him hit those fades, those Dirk kind of Durant-y kind of fades. I think the like dribbling into his offense part of it is going to have to be a lot smaller piece of the pie. Like we saw, it was fun. The highlights were really fun. It's going to be a little too erratic and inefficient.
More grow into it and over his NBA journey, and I think with him that's a perfect game plan. Sidi Sissoko, his teammate, drafted in the second round. Defensively, he's been absolutely awesome. Nobody can get by him. Offensively, has a long way to go. Maybe we see him with the Austin Spurs. That's where Dominic Barlow last year out of Overtime Elite, he was an undrafted free agent. Even though he put up big numbers for OTE, he was undrafted. He signs a two-way with the Spurs. He really excels in their G League system all year. He does pretty well with his opportunities in the NBA. He's been great. The California Classic games, he was great. He was really good, I thought, yesterday. 6'10". He's a versatile guy. He can be out on the perimeter a little bit. Tough on defense. I was very impressed by him as well. So the Spurs have a lot of good young players. Scoot Henderson played only one game at Las Vegas Summer League, unfortunately, because of a shoulder injury, but I was fortunate to get 25, 30 minutes to talk with him. We broke down film, talked about his game. Here's some of that. Scoot Henderson had his jumper going early in his Blazers debut, hitting 3 pull-ups in the first 6 minutes. The defense was going under screens, so I asked him about his mindset facing that type of defense.
I'm going to take a bunch of those. Every time they do it, I'm going to shoot every time I want to do that. So if I'm feeling comfortable doing that, which I am every single time, they're going to stop going under.
So are you expecting early in your career for defenses to go under a lot of screens, kind of until you prove yourself as a shooter?
Yeah, I don't really have to prove much, Hopefully they keep going under so I keep wide open shots.
What level do you think you could reach as a shooter? I think
I could reach a very high level.
Scoot did start missing jumpers after his hot start, ending up at 3 of 9 for the game. And the jumper is important for him because the greater the threat he is from 3, the more it's going to open drives to the basket.
Little hezzy action.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's going to try to definitely block it, so kind of fooled him with the up and under. See the little pace right there? Coming down fast, and then the little pound dribble to slow down, get him, on his heels a little bit. Not so much ready. And then,
you were feeling good after that? Yep.
Yeah, I was just playing my game, having fun with it. I should have dunked his ass.
You wish you went up for the dunk there?
Yeah, I definitely did.
So you're in this situation. What are you thinking about right now? You said you should have dunked. Are you thinking dunk at all right now? Or are you
thinking dunk for sure?
Mm-hmm.
But dude, he had came over help. I'm like, I could have jumped out too. So
yeah. With Scoot's football player frame, he projects as a player who can finish and draw a lot of fouls. But when he's on the attack, it's also his playmaking that's his best skill right now, and he loves to make kickouts.
Trying to get in there, and he plays pretty bad defense here. We're trying to send me to the baseline or whatever, but that's not really good. There's no help. They're coming over late. They got to contest. So it's kind of leaves the spray wide open.
For sure.
It was fun. It was fun just getting transition. Attracting everybody in the paint and, finding Chris. That's the main goal, and get in there and find my teammates. So.
Later in the game, the Blazers designed an inbound play for Scoot to lob the ball to last year's lottery pick, Shaedon Sharpe, and here's how it went.
Ooh, see, when we get that down, it's over with, man. Oh, my God. When we get that down, because it was right there. He definitely just flat.
It's gotta
And
be.
this guy is done for.
Once you get the chemistry,
Once you get that, it's over. It's gonna be showtime.
how would you describe Shaedon Sharpe to somebody who's never watched him play?
Super skilled. He can do everything on the floor, man. You know, I love playing with guys that just go out there and play to win. You know, and that's what he does. He can shoot it very well. He can attack the basket. As you can see, he dunked on Jay Huff, very good shot blocker. So,
Yeah.
you know, that just tells you, who he is as a player.
For my full Q&A with Scoot Henderson, visit theringer.com. We'll be back on Beyond the Arc after the break.
I'm here with Wosny Lambre at NBA Summer League in Las Vegas. We're watching all these young teams put out their young talent on the floor. Rookies, second-year guys, occasional third-year guys. I'm thinking about how the Sacramento Kings last year, they draft Keegan Murray. They put him in with De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis. They have all this young talent. They go from 30 wins to 48 wins. They make the biggest leap. They stop their streak without making the playoffs. Is there a team that you have on your mind watching these teams based off their summer league, their summer moves, their drafts, that you think could take that type of big leap, 15-plus win change this coming season?
Yeah, that's kind of an easy call for me. It's the Indiana Pacers because I was on them last year to start the league. I just love their style of play. They played with incredible pace all year. Halliburton had a breakout season, was rewarded with a nice little contract this summer, but he got hurt, and it kind of derailed what they were doing last year. So I think with him actually playing a solid chunk of the games, Ben Mathurin was a revelation last year. Of course, in the offseason, they've added Obi Toppin, who I love, even if Tibbs hates him.
There's something more to his game.
I feel like something can be unlocked, and I think he is such a perfect fit for what they're doing as far as the pace stuff. He is an incredible open court player, high motor guy, great finisher. Him and Halliburton and pick and rolls and just within the flow of that offense is going to be fun. And then, of course, Brucey B, Bruce Brown, signed for a nice contract.
I mean, they signed Bruce Brown. Good team-friendly deal as well. $20 million in the first year, then a team option the second year. They also draft Jarris Walker, who's a really nice fit in that front court with Miles Turner. Versatile, beefy, 6'8", big man. Like, they could play some interesting lineups, and all of these guys, Halliburton being the center of it as the primary ball handler, it feels like it kind of all works around him.
Yeah, and I think obviously they've improved the roster via the acquisitions, but also they can count on internal improvement because their key guys are so young. So Halliburton, I thought, was a bona fide all-star player. This was not some fringe guy, sort of all-star reserve. He was the best point guard in the Eastern Conference for large parts of last season. So I'm just excited to see where he takes it going forward. Of course,
he could be if they gave him the touches, if he demands the ball as a scorer, he could be a 25-plus point per game guy.
He's got to want to
good.
score 25, though.
100%.
That hasn't really been his temperament in the past. But I think to take the team to the next level, he has to do that. And we haven't even mentioned our boy Miles Turner, who had a resurgent season. He had been trying to tell those people he was better than Sabonis that whole time. They finally traded him, and I think he got to prove what his worth is, man. I was excited to watch Miles hoop the way that he did last year. So to me, the Pacers are the team that I'll be watching and make a market improvement. And it's not even that they're going to be better, Kev. I just think their style of play is so appealing, and people are going to want to get behind that.
I'm with you on Indiana 100%. They have 35 wins last year. I could see them in the high 40s for sure, especially if Halliburton takes even more of a leap. I had him as one of the 15 best guys in the NBA last year. I think, a lot of people this coming season will maybe kind of match me there. We'll see what happens with his development. I want to throw some other teams at you that could potentially take a leap. You tell me if there's no chance or if there is a chance with these guys. Orlando Magic, 34 wins last year.
I haven't been on the Magic train the way other people have, although I am a huge believer in Paolo and what he's able to do. I thought he showed a lot for a rookie, for them to entrust him with the offense. And
Franz Wagner, very good as well in that front court.
Franz Wagner, another guy that I slept on. But he's a killer. Just multi-dimensional as a weapon. I just want to see what they get out of their guards. Because in the past, that's kind of been their Achilles heel. Of course, they've tried to address it in the draft. They've brought different guys in, but I want to see what they can do at the guard position. I'm still a guy who thinks Jalen Suggs is sort of, at his best, could be a sort of Kyle Lowry light. I don't think he's going to be as good as Kyle Lowry, but I'm excited to see what he does in his development. And yeah, I just think what they're missing right now, that's why everybody was attaching them to guys like Fred VanVleet, because the guard position has been their Achilles heel for years now. So I'll keep my eye on that, right? If they can get quality front court play, they'll be in the mix.
How about the Pistons? They had 17 wins last year. Cade Cunningham barely plays.
Yeah.
Get him back this coming season. They draft Osar Thompson in the lottery. They get Marcus Sasser in the late first round. They still have, Bogdanovich. They have some veterans mixed with them. Jalen Duren in his second year. The Pistons take a leap with Cade back.
Man, I think honestly it's all on Cade. This is his third year, and this is typically when we see guys of the caliber that I believe that he is, make that sort of jump into, prominent, big-time guy. He hasn't played, right? I believe in his work ethic. I believe in the type of professionalism that he brings to every situation, but he's got to put it on the court this year. I think even in his rookie year, he showed some advanced stuff on the ball in pick and roll, if not in, ISO situations, right? But he's already shown that his understanding of NBA defenses and how to manipulate an attack is pretty advanced at his age, but he's got to put it on the floor this year.
And last one, two teams that won 22 games last year, the Rockets and the Spurs. They both have top picks. They got a lot of young talent on each respective roster. The Rockets have a new coach in Ime Udoka. The Spurs, they have a coach they've had for a long time in Greg Popovich. Which team wins more games next year?
I think the Rockets are actually going to win more games next year because I think their operation has gotten so much more professionalized just by signing Fred VanVleet.
VanVleet and Udoka
alone. Together,
yes.
Yes. These are accountability guys. And so all of that, if you watch the Rockets.
Dylan Brooks. Dylan Brooks is going to take 20 shots a game.
Kev, stop. Here's the thing.
That's an argument against Houston.
No, seriously, because I was like, okay, accountability, professionalism. Like, all right, we're doing this with the VanVleet signing, and to bring Dylan Brooks in, not only to bring him in, but to bring him in at that number, meaning you've empowered him to be one of the more prominent guys on the team.
I hope by empowering him, it's, elite defense like we've seen from him, but not 15 shots per game. Hopefully it's 10 shots per game.
And I think what they're counting on is Ime's ability to MF these guys
like
to
with
death.
Marcus Smart.
Right, exactly.
That was the best version of Smart we ever saw was under Ime.
A guy that could look these guys in the eye and be like, look, you're not doing things right, and we need you to switch it up.
Unlike Taylor Jenkins, who's like, hey, equal opportunity.
Do whatever you want.
Everybody get touches.
Yeah, and look, it's hard. It's hard because Dylan Brooks was so integral to the turnaround in Memphis, and so the guys over there looked at him as a big part of that. So how can they tell him to rein himself in if him being him was part of what turned that entire franchise around, right? And so I think a change of scenery will help, and I do think a guy like Ime is going to help that situation. But as far as the Spurs are concerned, I think even yesterday when we watched Wembanyama play, I think people have tempered their expectations that he might not be Moses, Jesus Christ, and John the Baptist rolled into one this year.
So stacked on top of each other.
Yeah, seriously. This year he might not be that. And so, it's a wait-and-see developmental situation going on with the Spurs. But we know they're going to play quality ball. They're going to bring it every single night. I just don't think they're going to have the requisite talent to sort of make it into the upper 30s, low 40s type of team this year.
Well, Woz, when we're back, we'll talk about Damian Lillard.
Let's please do that.
Welcome back to Beyond the Arc here with Wosny and Lambre. Woz, I know you have a bone to pick with me about
do.
my Miami Heat stance that their offer is weak for Damian Lillard. What's on your mind? Please fire away.
Look, I was on my couch having a nice little beverage, and I don't know if it was a tweet or a thread or a snap. I don't know where you posted it because we know you're Kevin No content.
It was on
You're
Beyond the
everywhere.
Arc on FanDuel. That's what it was. Yeah.
Okay, no, you're so platform diverse. It's hard to keep up with you. But just the idea that Miami has a quote unquote weak offer. What they're offering is Tyler Hero and multiple first round picks. Nobody else has come to the table with that. So to call Miami's offer weak relative to who and what? If there was an offer that Portland was bowled over by, if, say somebody came in the way Phoenix did for Kevin Durant and offered this premium young piece on a great deal, plus all of these future firsts and all of these swaps, then I'd be like, you know what, Kev, you have a point. That offer doesn't exist. Miami actually has the best offer on the table. And I think we're seeing that where at the beginning we're hearing about teams like the Nets or maybe Utah or maybe San Antonio as potential suitors who are now becoming guys that are going to be able to facilitate Dame to Miami. It's not a weak offer when you consider the fact that, one, you don't want to bring in a guy who doesn't have buy-in. Although we know Dame to be who he is, right? He's made his name in the league as being...
We agree on that. All the reports about him not showing up to camp, that's bogus.
That would absolutely never happen. And by the way, to that point, because I hear a lot of guys talking about Portland and they're the damsel in distress and we have to save Portland. And then so they came to Damian Lillard last year and told him to sit. Why? Is going to improve our odds in the lottery, which is going to improve our ability to make this team better. This happened. This has actually happened. They had to tell Dame Lillard not to play, right? So this is the type of guy we're talking about. We got a chance at the play, and I want to play. I want to be there. I want to be in the playoffs. I'm about winning. So when the franchise takes a different turn, that's what the guy wants. And Miami is just sitting there waiting. And again, they have the best offer for a guy at his age, his position, a league full of starting point guards. It's not a bevy of suitors out there. Miami happens to be well situated and Dame happens to want to go there. And I think when you talk about, because I want to talk about your proposal specifically.
First
who
thing.
Never plays.
First on that Heat offer, the best offer is a weak offer. That's the thing with the Miami Heat. It might be the best offer, but it's weak. And if I'm Portland, I'm not taking that crap.
So they're bringing Dame back to win games? They want to win games?
I'm dragging this out because I'm not taking that offer if I'm the Portland Trailblazers. It's not a competitive offer compared to what the Utah Jazz got from Mitchell, compared to any of these type of trades for guards like that.
But here's the thing. These trades don't happen in a vacuum,
No,
Kev.
they don't.
They happen in real life.
But Damian Lillard's better than those guys. And if I'm Portland, I expect at least 4 or 5 first-round draft picks. I don't want Tyler Hero. I want those picks. So the deal needs to include a third team, a fourth team, which it seems like they're working on.
That's what's happening.
That's what's happening. But if you're Portland, you mentioned these other deals, the Celtics can't do better right now. They can at least be comparable. If they were to flip Jaylen Brown to, say, Houston, get picks, that seems unrealistic. It could be comparable, but it's not better. The teams that can do better, they're hoping for, are San Antonio, which seems like it's not going to happen at this point. It's Utah, which they were better than anticipated last year if they didn't tank their way out of the play-in.
You think Danny Ainge wants to do this type of thing?
I think
bring Dame into his rebuilding
I think
situation?
Danny Ainge would want to. If Damian Lillard is his Kevin Garnett, if he can find his Ray Allen, then he could do things. Like if it's Paul George or Pascal Siakam also coming with Damian Lillard, then I think he would do that.
That gets you excited? Pascal Siakam?
I like Siakam a lot.
In Salt Lake City?
Siakam's a good player.
I love Pascal Siakam as a player, but the idea that you're going to divert your rebuild in order to build a Pascal Siakam Dame team, that doesn't make any sense. And to the Portland point, if these guys, from what they've shown on the Portland side, Cronin and his crew, they believe in these young guys so much, right? They're the crown jewel of the franchise.
Shaedon Sharpe.
That you cannot
Scoot,
move them
yes.
for actual proven
So you think
vets.
Portland should be going the other way and building around Damian Lillard, who just had the best individual season of his career?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you've designated these young guys as the future in the franchise, why are you going to start that process with an unhappy Dame in camp? After Cronin, nobody asked him to do this.
Maybe they might. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll take the Miami offer if there's literally nothing better at the end of the day.
But what I'm saying, why Portland can't just sit and wait. After Cronin comes out, nobody asked him to acknowledge the trade request in public.
He did it.
Specifically. He did that. And so, therefore, when Dame comes into camp and starts the season, that's what your season is now about. With the young guys that you're trying to build a culture and a whole team around. That doesn't make any sense. Just take your Miami offer, eat your freaking vegetables, and move on.
You got to play this out, and here's why. We're talking about all these other teams. If Boston does something crazy and flips Brown, if the Spurs step up and try to accelerate around Wemby. No. But the team that we're not talking about enough is the Sixers. The Sixers are the team that have reason to actually do something wild right now. James Harden doesn't want to be there. Daryl Morey's in a position where he needs to maximize Joel Embiid. So the deal that I think could be the greatest threat to the Heat would actually come from the Sixers, where they send Harden to the Clippers for one future first. Maybe you get Terrence Mann back, expiring salaries, and then they send Maxey to a team like the Spurs or the Jazz, a team that has a surplus of first-round picks where they're like, oh, we'll give you 3. We'll give you, like the Spurs could give a top 1 protected Celtics pick in 2028. They could give 2 future Hawks picks, a team that a lot of teams would like to bet against, Atlanta. They could give 3 firsts for Tyrese Maxey in the last year of his rookie deal. And then suddenly the Sixers could have 5 first-round picks to give in a deal. Maybe they can give swaps in that situation as well. They could give Tobias Harris to give the Blazers the salary cap relief that they want in a deal where Hero would be flipped elsewhere. So I think for Portland, you at least got to play this out and see if that type of offer actually becomes available for them. You have to play it out.
Here's the thing.
You
Tyrese Maxey is not a 3 first-round pick
I think
player.
he could be. I think he could be.
He is absolutely not.
I think he could be. He's in his young 20s, and he just scored 20 points per game, and he would be a perfect fit on a team like the Spurs.
We just did this at the trade deadline with OG Anunoby. 4 first-round picks, allegedly.
Sure.
Nobody bid.
But OG's not like an initiator of the offense. OG has proven that's one of his weakest points of his game.
But
that's what Tyrese Maxey is awesome in the half court.
Here's the problem with your argument, Kev. The playoffs happened 2 months ago. We watched Tyrese Maxey, who you called awesome.
Yeah, the Sixers are a mess. The Sixers are a mess. It's just not a great situation, that team.
This is the thing about guys.
Harden was a mess. Embiid had poor games. He was hurt.
This is the thing, Kev. This is the thing about guys who are available to be traded. They're not that awesome. And so the idea that for a guy that
awesome
we watch,
for a young player. Let me clarify there. Not awesome in a vacuum, but awesome. Like for a young player, you could be feeling good about his future. Do you not like Tyrese Maxey? Maybe we just disagree on his upside.
I have an affinity for Tyrese Maxey's game, but what is he on a team that's trying to accomplish something for real?
I think with the
let's just say the team that he plays for.
Let's just say let's not talk about the Sixers because he's being traded in this scenario.
Okay.
For the Spurs, he's your guy that you grow in a backcourt. You want Popovich. You grow with a multi-ball handler offense. Sometimes it's Wemby. Sometimes it's Vassell. Maxey, they don't really have that future guard. Maxey's so good off ball, and now he's playing with stagnant Joel Embiid and James Harden. I mean, it's the worst possible situation for Tyrese Maxey to be in as a young player to blossom. I think the Spurs or the Jazz, these teams that play with motion, could bring out the best version of Tyrese Maxey. So I think 3 firsts that aren't even your own is really not the most significant price to pay, especially from the Spurs side of things. The Hawks were the team that overpaid to get DeJounte Murray, who is super inefficient in the half court, great defender to be fair, good playmaker, but San Antonio, if they could turn 2 of those first into Tyrese Maxey and then give 1 other first, I just think something like that makes sense for San Antonio.
Again, this is why I feel like this conversation is very circular. Is Tyrese Maxey a materially better player than DeJounte Murray? He is not.
Not right now.
Nobody would say that.
Not today.
And so
not today.
But we have to deal with him as he
but
is today.
He will be better.
Oh, he will be.
He will be
Okay.
better. I think he could be better as soon as this coming season.
He got to put you on the payroll, Kev, because you absolutely love.
Well, Heat fans think I'm trying to force him out of Miami. I'm just stating the facts that the best offer is a weak offer, and Portland's trying to wait for something better, which they should do.
But Kev, sometimes that's the case, right? People slammed the Wizards for the deal that they made for Bradley Beal, but guess what?
No
They're
trade.
4 years late on a trade.
And no trade clause, too.
Of course. So the best offer was a weak offer.
Yes.
But it was the best offer.
It was.
And the best offer is the Heat offer.
For now.
Okay.
For now. we'll see how this plays out, Waz. I look forward to talking with you later this year after, I don't know, the Sixers get Damian. Or I'll bring you back when the Heat land, Dame. Thank you for joining me on Beyond the Arc.
Brother, always a pleasure.
Thank you, Waz.